The thing about directional mics is that I'm playing music right now. You probably can't even really hear it. That's so weird. It's such a odd phenomenon. It's so effective. Anyway, the really weird thing about the Sukuna fight versus, the whole cavalcade of the cast at the end of the series is that um, the way that he was defeated was integral with the way that he found his way to exist in that current world. You know, the fact that he was, inhabiting Megumi's body was integral to defeating him. The fact that he was an abomination was integral to defeating him. If he was Ryoma Sukuna from 1,000 years ago, there was no way they were going to beat him. If Ryoma Sukuna somehow defeated Satoru Gojo. You can have your, debates in the comments about, if he could have defeated Gojo, but if he somehow found a way to defeat Satoru Gojo, and the gauntlet came to fight him afterwards, it would have been lights out because there would be no way to defeat him. There would be no soul punching to weaken him. The utility of the soul punches was to weaken the connection that Sukuna had to Megami's body, and that would have went completely out the window if Sukuna was in his original body. The fact was, Sukuna in his current form was, this parasite that was, jumping from host to host, and that once again, the fact that he was an abomination was integral to, this key that led to his defeat. And that was a really nice bit of writing. Anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk about. This video is about Stoicism, and it's going to be a bit of a comparison between the Stoicism as it is written in JJK as opposed to how it is written in Frieren. Yes, bait and switch. Gotcha. Anyway, you know, JJK. A lot of people talked about this already, but a big weakness in JJK is the fact that, you know, it forgoes a lot of opportunities for character writing moments. And to, I guess, jump into the action, I don't quite know why Gege thought to do that. I don't know what went on in Gege's mind. They didn't really speak on it that much. That's fine. The story's over. It was never really a big part of my life, so no skin off my back. The life goes on. Happens every day, B. So here's what I will say. The one that really bugged me the most was Maki after murdering the Zenin clan. This is never really ruminated upon at all. Look, I understand Maki's character. It's in character for Maki to sort of take it on the chin and keep on moving, but I guess like the only sort of commentary that you get from the rest of the cast is that Maki's like, "Whoa, Maki's different, dude. Maki's cold. Maki's like hardcore now, and like stronger too. Wow, that's so crazy." It's just about like how Maki's more badass and how Maki has more utility as a fighter now. That doesn't really do it for me. The very famous example that people like to use is like, the idea of like Gojo coming back from the prison realm, and then they set the fight for Gojo and Sukuna 1 month from now. Oh, we're gonna have so many character moments. We're gonna talk about like Yuji and his sort of what's the word I'm looking for? That regret of letting him get caught slipping by Sukuna and transferring himself over to Megami. Like, how is Gojo going to react to the fact that Megami got taken over by Sukuna? You know, how is Gojo going to react to this new standard that he's found himself in, and how is he going to contend with the fact that this all happened, sort of because he was trapped in the present realm, and that he got tricked by Kenjaku. How is he going to contend with all that? Nope. We don't get any of that. Gege has a very particular way of writing. Uh, Specifically, the world that Gege has constructed is one in which uh, shit happens and life goes on. and you don't think about it. You take it with you and you keep on moving, and you don't ruminate on it that much at all. And I feel like this is exemplary in like one of the final scenes of uh, the manga. This idea of like, uh, aren't you tired of Satoru Gojo? Like, this is what Gojo says when he's talking to Yuji at the end of the series. He's like, aren't you tired? Aren't people tired of the idea of Satoru Gojo? We don't even get to see a funeral scene for Gojo or anything, yeah, even coming to a concept of a funeral scene for Gojo, because Gege is so disinterested in that idea of like, you know, uh, introspection upon the past and the people and ideas and connections that got us to where we are. You know, there could have been so much more focus on that to strengthen, the present cast, the present connections that they have, but that just didn't really seem to be something that uh, was in Gege's wheelhouse. So be it. But in contrast, I guess Frieren, uh, we can use just one character as a microcosm of all of this. We're going to talk about Sylvia and how she always talks about how all of her past apprentices are failures. You know, so much so that Lernan thinks that killing Frieren is the only way for Syria to take him seriously as, one of the apprentices. He says to Frieren that, like, the only way that Syria can have an apprentice live on with her in memory is by creating a legacy. And the only legacy that I can think of in this peaceful time is by killing the legendary mage, Frieren. That's all I can think of. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. What a tsundere. And guess what? Tsundere is a tsundere too. Most of these characters in this show are tsunderes. And that's because everyone has this kind of face. They're super serious all the time. They have the serious face. They're not very emotive. So you have to know how they feel by what they say and what they do. So, um, it's interesting because their words are often kind of reliable, actually. If you look at what Syria says, this ledger of, her commentary, it's actually pretty reliable as to what her true feelings are. She talks about how, all of her past students were failures. But then she also says, I remember all of their favorite spells. So, like, at first you're led to believe, oh, she only sees the students as um, potential opportunities to sort of be extensions of, her prowess as a mage. And then you see that she values them as people, as connections that she's made, with these other beings over time. And she enjoyed her time with them, regardless of, how talented they were or, the sort of heights that they reached. So, yeah, it's interesting that, so much can be gleaned from that one interaction that Saria has with Frieren. Uh, there's just so much you can do with talking. Have your characters talk with each other and explore the dynamics and the nooks and crannies of their minds. There's just so much that can be gleaned. Please